Hi, welcome back to the third episode of my podcast. Cheers to my 20s. First of all, Ramadan Kareem. Uh, I'm recording this on the 23rd of Ramadan. So دخلنا في العشر الأواخر. Well, I just want to say before starting this episode, رأيكم شنو في الست الليلة? Set meaning إنه I put some books next to me. I put on lantern on top of them and hung some Ramadan like prayer lights on the wall. And I know هو الصراحة الحلقة دي كان مفترض ألبس فيها جلابية وألبس turban يعني to embody the Ramadan vibes. لكن الصراحة يعني حاسة إنه Ramadan vibes الليلة بجنيه to be honest, cause like I could have done better. بس يا اخوان انتوا ما فاهمين السنة دي there is literally no Ramadan vibes and I hate it because I love Ramadan. يا اخوان انتوا ما فاهمين رمضان السنة اللي فاتت was honestly the best Ramadan I ever had. Like the vibes were there. كنت بمشي صلاة التراويح كل يوم. تقريبا كان عندي جامعة لكن يعني برضو it wasn't that. لكن this year ما عارفة is it like بسبب الحرب ولا نفسي طالعة ولا بس عشان like not my whole family is with me وكده I really can't pinpoint what the reason is. لكن السنة دي there's no Ramadan vibes at all and it's kind of sad. But anyways, let's get back to موضوع الحلقة. So today's episode is, if you can't tell, it's Ramadan edition. and كان مفترض أنزله يوم 1/4 لكن I couldn't have the room to myself, so now we're here. And يعني أنا ما قاعدة أشرح لكم how stressful the last 2 weeks have been. So basically this is what I'm gonna do. Since I post an episode every 2 weeks, in every episode I'll do a recap of my last 2 weeks and like an update, and then I'll have a topic. So this episode is gonna be Ramadan and stuff like that. But the beginning of the episode I'm gonna like do a recap of the last 2 weeks. So في الأسبوعين اللي فاتوا كان عندي midterms وزيتي كان طالع لأنه رمضان and exams. It feels like a hate crime, honestly. Like, is it because I'm black? Honestly, I love saying that. Like, whenever I face any kind of hardship, I'm like, is it because I'm black? Is it because I'm a woman? But yeah, anyways, sorry. That was an inside joke there and I shouldn't have explained it. But المهم, for the last 2 weeks were hell. I've been so stressed. So نزلت جامعة again بعد سنة. طبعا نسيت كيف بقرو، نسيت كيف كنت براجع، نسيت كيف بكتب notes. Literally I forgot everything. And you would assume studying is like a muscle memory type of thing, like like you don't really forget how to study, like but I did. And it's so much harder now to study. Like the procrastination level ما بقدر، ما قادرة. وبعدين شنو موضوع رمضان والصيام وكده ده زايد على الموضوع زيادة. فبس I've just been feeling the pressure, the academic stress. وبعدين أنا like okay, not throughout my whole life كنت overachiever per se. Like in middle school I used to get F's and D's and I was like a troubled kid kind of. I used to fight with kids, physical fights, don't mess with me. But those were my old days, middle school. High school, I was like, okay, IGs are starting, like I have to get my act together, and I started actually studying, and I became, kind of an overachiever student. And then so the moment you start getting good grades, then that's the new standard. And so it was never like external stress. It was never like my parents being like, oh, go study, or like go, like they never did that. It was me being like, I can't get below an A. It was an internal stress to be perfect, and this is something that I do to myself, and it's not just like academic, it's in everything, like morally, ethically, academically. Like I always have this inside voice that's like, be perfect, do your best, like blah, blah, blah. I push myself way too hard and I'm like, whoa, and I always end up burning out. So I've just been feeling the pressure. And obviously, again, because I'm adjusting to a new culture, to a new country, and all of that, a new university, new friends, like, oh my god, so many things to adjust to. In addition to all of that, I still want to get straight A's. Like, that's not how we work. Like, I should cut myself some slack. And so this term, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm mentally preparing to get like mediocre grades and be okay with it. That's my goal. Again, gratitude and what was the goal? You remember in my first episode I talked about my goals for this year. I want to practice gratitude, I want to be more grateful, all of that. So I just oh, contentment. I think that's the better word. I want to be content with whatever grades I get, because they don't define me. And for the longest time, because again, for like throughout high school, I used to get like good grades and it became the new standard. And so I just had this pressure to like keep going and stay on that same level throughout university as well. But obviously, uni is much harder, and I'm adjusting to a new environment, and there's all of these factors. So it's okay if I like my grades dip a bit, like it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Also, when you graduate, no one cares if you got A's or B's in your like university in your midterms. Like nobody cares, it's more like when you graduate they look at the full picture, like your extracurriculars, your volunteer work. They look at your grade. Yani, do you get me? Like they don't go to your second year final results and be like, oh, she got a C in this subject, we're not gonna hire her. That's not how it works. So I should just need to chill and relax and stop being so hard on myself, and everything will be fine. But yeah, I don't know. Is that just me? Like I feel like there's other people who operate the same way. Like nobody said you're a failure. Nobody said you were not worth anything. But I just at some point in my life, I started linking my self-worth to my grades. And that's a horrible thing to do because grades fluctuate. A lot of things depend on it. Oh my God. Another thing I wanted to mention. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. But another thing I wanted to mention is that one thing I also realized again because of the war, and again, I realized getting good grades kind of needs you to have a certain level of privilege. Like I'm not saying that if you're not privileged, you're not going to get good grades, but the privilege helps. Let me explain. So basically, back in Sudan, right? I used to get good grades, but I never really thought about why. I was like, oh, it's just I work hard. That's why I get good grades. But that's not the only factor. Like, I had food provided for me. Like, my mom would make us food. The food is right. I don't have to worry about that. I have my own room, so I have quiet. I have my own study, like desk, everything. Like, my transportation is easy because we had our own car. Like, everything that would like that helps me study well was provided for me. So like I would go to uni in the least amount of time because I'm not taking public transport. I had my own room, so I had my quiet whenever I wanted to study. I had a desk, like كل الحاجات اللي بتساعدني اني اقرا كانت مجهزة لي. ف I never really thought about, oh, like all of these things actually affect my grades or actually affect how well I study. But now when I'm comparing it, like I go to uni in an hour, like public transport, like I have to wake up 2 hours before my lecture to make sure I get there on time. I have to worry about that. Um Alhamdulillah, like with like my mom still makes me food and all of that, but also now I'm sharing a room, right? And so I don't study whenever I want to, right? Because I'm sharing a room. There's certain times where I can open the lights, when I can close the lights. So sharing a room also like makes that harder. So it made me realize, you like all of these things were kind of a privilege that I took for granted, and now I'm aware of it, and I'm like, I should I should appreciate those things more. So yeah. Anyways, okay. Enough about stress in school and pressure and all of that. It's fine. Whatever. We cope, we move on. And I'm grateful to even have an education to begin with. Like that's a privilege in of it. What was the term? In of itself. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, also another thing, I realized the difference between filming a podcast and a YouTube video. When you're filming a YouTube video, you can just do retakes. Like that last part where I stuttered, I can just like clip it out and record from the start or use another phrase. But when you're recording a podcast, it's so much harder to like clip any mistakes out, because then the audio sounds choppy. Like like podcasts, usually when you listen to them, they're like a smooth like audio, like it's a full thing. But when you're recording a YouTube video, like there's usually cuts, like you expect to hear cuts. So I've been trying to cut the podcast less. Like I've been trying to just do like one takes and edit it as little as possible so that it sounds like more cohesive. And also like obviously I'll stutter, like it's fine. You know, English is not my first language, even though I'm whitewashed. Yes, I'm ashamed and I know it, but English is still not my first language. So I will be stuttering and I will make mistakes, and that's fine. And I'll keep them in the video. So, yeah, okay. Moving on. Moving on to the next topic, Ramadan vibes. Okay, Ramadan vibes. Let's talk about it. Okay, again, I talked about this briefly at the start of the video. But genuinely, this Ramadan, there are no vibes. Like, if you can go to YouTube right now and watch the video version of this podcast, I'm wearing like this cow print jalabiya, and it's definitely not giving Ramadan. And I'm wearing these like cloud earrings, which like it's a cute outfit, but it's not a Ramadan outfit. And I really wanted to wear a jalabiya, like a Ramadan jalabiya, and wear a turban and like have decorations and do all of that, but um I don't know. I'm just not feeling the energy, you know? I'm not feeling the Ramadan spirit. Does that make sense? Hopefully this is just me. Hopefully you guys are feeling the vibes. Hopefully you had an amazing Ramadan so far. But I'm just like, it's very hard for me to get into it, you know? Um I don't know, something feels off. And again, oh my god, this is something I wanted to mention. For all of my Sudani watchers, anyone who's Sudani, you know, definitely, honestly, everyone who watches my videos is probably Sudani because all of my friends are Sudani, all of my family members are Sudani. So like, but you all relate to the fact that because we grew up in Sudan, because of the political instability in Sudan, there has always been a link between Ramadan and like some traumatic event happening, right? So I don't really remember the timeline or when all of these happened, but I remember فضل اعتصام when literally صباح العيد I think ولا نهاية رمضان, something like that, حصل فضل اعتصام, which was like a massacre that took place in Sudan, and it was very traumatic, you know, so many, like hundreds of people died. um and so there's always some kind of big event that happens in Ramadan. Last Ramadan, oh my god, okay, during the war, right? So the war started on the 15th of April. So it was like end of Ramadan kind of. And so Sabah al-Eid was the first of Eid last year, was, you know, in the war, right? And I remember to this day, you know, I think I told this story before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Sabah al-Eid, like they started sending these crazy airstrikes. You know, like the whole house was shaking. It was a really horrible night, and one of my neighbors sent in the group chat saying, "No, يا إخوانا دي العيدية ولا شنو?" Like, cause real, like, you know. So the point I'm trying to make إنه كل رمضان في مصيبة بتحصل basically. And ما عارفة subconsciously ولا حاجة زي دي غايته مخي بقى linked to Ramadan with trauma, you know, which shouldn't be the case. Like Ramadan مفترض يكون شهر بتاع, you know, like peace and good vibes and تدين and all of that. بس حكومتنا حكومتنا, they just turned it into this like traumatic kind of event, or like they linked it to these sad memories, if that makes sense. Like, and so I don't know, ever since like the last 3 4 years, كل Ramadan, it's like, yes, I'm excited to, guys, okay, pause. I love Ramadan. Like I adore Ramadan. Like the peace that I feel, and praying all my prayers on time, and like going to Taraweeh and fasting. I love fasting. It's just like amazing. And the food, like all the rituals, they're amazing. Great vibes. Okay, it's one of my favorite months of the year. Actually, it is my favorite month of the year. But because of the war, right, and our government and all of these traumatic experiences and massacres and horrible like كوارث اللي بتحصل كل رمضان في السودان, it ruined it for me, kind of a little bit, you know. And also the fact that I might never have Ramadan in Sudan again. Like يا اخوان انا عايزه اشرح لكم ليه رمضان 2023 was the best Ramadan ever. Like كنت بمشي التراويح كل يوم، بودي أمي وأبوي بسوقهم. كنت طلعت الرخصة أسبوع يا إخوان، استمتعت برخصتي لمدة أسبوع. بعدين الحرب بدت يا إخوان. أنا بتمرن، بمشي حصص بتاعت سواقة لي سنة، طلعت الرخصة مرة أسبوع، أنا الحرب حصلت. It's like it's not meant to be. Honestly, I gave up. I'm not driving ever again. I took an executive decision إنه I'm never gonna drive again because حريتها والله صراحة، يعني حريت الرخصة ما أقدر أسوق. Anyways, بس I'm trying to say إنه Ramadan is one of my favorite months. It was amazing in 2023 لحد ما الحرب حصلت obviously. And it's just been downhill from there, you know, like every Ramadan حاسة إنه الشعب السوداني كله، بس بالذات ما رمضان وبداية العيد، you know، عيد رمضان ده بحس في توتر بيحصل في السودان. Cause like who are they gonna bomb next, you know? Which area is gonna get airstriked next? Is airstriked an adjective, a verb, a noun? Okay, anyways, English is not my first language. المهم، all I want to say يا اخواني انه رمضان ده رمضان vibes بجنيه، وإن شاء الله رمضان الجاي we get to feel the vibes ونقضيه مع أهلنا وأسرنا ونقضيه في السودان إن شاء الله. Even though I'm not an optimist, whenever people are like إن شاء الله السنة الجاية نتلم في السودان, it's like yeah إن شاء الله, but the statistics, the math is not mathing, the probabilities are not probabilitying. And maybe this is a problem in my brain. Maybe it's because I'm a realist, or maybe it's because I'm a pessimist. But whenever someone's like inshallah السنة الجاية نتلم في السودان, like I'm like yeah inshallah, but are we really? What are the chances? What are the chances, you know? But yeah, inshallah, you know, soon. Let's just say soon. Let's not say السنة الجاية. Let's just say soon الحرب توقف والبلد حالة تصلح ونتلم في السودان. Oh my god, إخوان, okay, this is another thing I wanted to mention. Oh my god, too many thoughts, too many opinions. المهم, something I've always wanted to experience هو الفطور في الشارع. Obviously, if you're Sudani, you know إنه فطور الشارع ده عادة بيكون فيه الرجال والأولاد وكده. بس أحس the vibes are like the options, the dishes. Like I feel like that's an experience I've always wanted to be a part of, and because I'm a women, am I right? Because I'm a woman, I never got to experience that. نفسي يا اخوان من زمان، نفسي اخوي وابوي دايما بيشيلوا صينية وبيمشوا يفطروا في الشارع مع اهل يعني رجال الحلة وكده. And like sometimes I'd be watching from inside, I'm like oh god when, but never probably. But you know like حاسة انه الفايبس بتاعتها, you know, it's like fun. and then بتشوف في الدعايات, you know, الرجال يطلعوا الصواني and like بيمشوا بيفطروا في الشارع مع بعض. Like I like the camaraderie in that, you know, like I don't know, does that make sense? Am I making any sense? Yeah, that's something I've always wanted to try. Okay, so we talked about Ramadan vibes. Now I want to talk about something more like Ramadan zato, you know, like more into Islam than it is Ramadan. Okay, I wanted to talk about my experience growing up as a Muslim woman. Okay, the challenges and benefits. Okay, let's talk about the benefits. And I know how like in a lot of Muslim countries talking about religion is controversial, which it shouldn't be. Like I feel like, is that crazy? Talking about religion shouldn't be controversial, but it's because there's a lot of extremists who are like all or nothing, you know, either like you're crazy religious or you're not a Muslim. Anything in the middle ما تبعنا, you know. And I hate that kind of extremist thinking. But anyways, let me talk about my experience again. I'm not generalizing, this is my experience growing up as a Muslim girl in Sudan. So honestly, there's a lot of things that I love about it. Okay, first of all, one thing that I've always said that's like, when I really thought about it, I was like, I'm so grateful to be a Muslim because, right, okay, think about it this way. When something bad happens, right, to someone, when something horrible happens, someone died, you got in an accident, blah, 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 you know, someone who doesn't have kind of a greater entity, a God to believe in, would usually, you know, blame themselves or would be hard on themselves. They would be like, why do I deserve this? You know, why me? Like, you know, they take the blame, themselves. Like if someone died for them, they're like, oh, why do I deserve this? Like the mindset is more of like me. Like you hold a lot of burdens, right? When you don't have another entity like, Rabbana, to kind of take that weight off of you. And that's something I always thought about in Islam, is that like لما تحصل مصيبة, you're just like, um ربنا كاتب كده, or like, you just say that. So now the burden, you're not holding the burden anymore, وكلت الموضوع لربنا. So I feel like that lifts so much like pressure off of us as human beings, because if you think about it, in life there's so many things that are unexplainable and that are hard to comprehend for the human mind, like death, right? Or like these huge like concepts that we're like, as a human being, it's hard for us to process the idea of, one day you're existing and the next second you're gone. Like you're gone from existence, and you can't talk to people and process things and all of these things. So it's death is such an insane concept, or like the creation of the earth, or like all of these like huge ideas, I guess, um that are difficult for a human mind and human emotions to process. Islam gives us this segue to be like, you know what, وكلت الموضوع لربنا, or like, you know what, ربنا قدر كده, and you move on, so you don't hold on to that burden. And that's something I'm so grateful for, because if you think about it, even from a psychological point of view, it makes so much sense that why, like, I feel like a lot of Muslims are happy, like, or like more peaceful. Let's say I think Islam is the best religion if you want to feel peaceful and have a peaceful life. I don't think it's necessarily happy. I think happiness comes with peace. It's like a byproduct of peace. But I think the goal of Islam is to live a peaceful life, and not worry and stress about a lot of things. You're just like بتوكلها لربنا, and you're just like, what, ربنا قدر كده, and you move on. Again, easier said than done, still, as a Muslim, obviously we still sometimes are like, why me, or like, why did this happen to me? But again, I don't think it's about you, or like, أفضل قاصدك. It's just like things happen, and ربنا بقدر, some things, and then you look at it back in the long run, and you're like, actually, this thing benefited me, and that's not always the case. But a lot of times when I would reflect back, and be like, oh, why me? Like this thing, like I hate it, blah, blah, blah. I learn a lot of lessons from those things, and that's good. Anyways, okay. I'm gonna talk about another thing that's like, I think, core experience of a Muslim girl growing up in a Muslim country. Um, it's not a controversial opinion, I think, but I think parents, when they're raising their kids, like Muslim parents, when they're raising their kids, I think the parenting style should instill more love to their religion than fear, because I feel like a lot of Sudani parents um use that fear aspect, because again, Quran like has both ayat that instill fear in you, and certain ayat that instill love in you for the Quran. So like obviously both are there, but I think parents specifically, when they're raising their kids to be Muslims and good Muslims and all that, I feel like they should make you love the religion, like create Ramadan vibes, as I'm saying right now. Like when it's Ramadan, like buy some like prayer mats, or like buy what was it called, isdal, I think, the prayer out it's not outfit, it's like coverage thing. I don't know, I'll find a picture and I'll just add it here. But so like, buy those things, like buy lanterns, buy like hilalat, pray together, like create like a love for the religion. When it's Eid, like get dressed up, go visit your relatives. Like when it when Islam becomes more of a lifestyle, and they instill that love of the religion in you, instead of being like حتخشي نار, لو ما عملتي كده حتخشي النار, لو ما عملتي كده اي حاجه بس حتخشي النار يعني, that just like makes you terrified of going to hell. And you don't do good things because you want to be a good person. You do good things because عايز تخشي الجنة, or like ما عايز تخشي النار. Does that make sense? I feel like it's better to instill the good morals and values, and just teach them to be good people and love the religion, and like prayer is a fun thing, not something لو ما عملتي وحتخشي النار, you know? Like I feel like that kind of mindset would be so much better, you know? One thing I struggled a lot with that was like اعمل كده عشان انا قلت or like اعمل كده عشان هتخشي النار لو ما عملتي كده was hijab. That's something that like I really really struggled with, and for the longest time I think a lot of my friends, not just me, but a lot of my friends, when they're just forced into it, they end up removing it when they're older, you know, or they end up hating it when they're older. But I think if you make them love it, or like show by example, like you wear it with them, or like you make them like actually feel beautiful, or like feel peaceful, or like feel confident wearing the hijab, I feel like, and then also at the end of the day, make it their decision, because again I feel like whenever you force someone to do something, they will rebel against it. Like it's just human nature 101. Like whoever it is, whatever the topic is, if you force someone to do something, they'll end up presenting it, they'll end up resenting you, and they'll remove it at the end of the day. And so for me at least, like hijab has been a long struggle for me to like fully like اقتنع and like to wear it. And obviously ربنا يهديني inshallah, one day I'll wear it. But I also, another thing that I noticed in the Muslim community, there's certain things that we nitpick the importance of. Like I think يعني أنا, the way I dress is very modest. Like the way I dress is like I wear baggy clothes. Like all my clothes is very modest, and it's just because it's comfortable. I'm not wearing it necessarily because, you know, I'm a Muslim or any of that. I mean, I guess it's both. But I wear baggy clothes, so I already wear modest clothes. It's just like covering my hair is the final piece of, you know. But I would say praying your five prayers on time and fasting and being kind to people is so much more important than covering your hair with a piece of fabric. Like all I'm trying to say is that I don't like how the Muslim community nitpicks which things are important and which things are not. Not important, but like which things are the most important, because you hear so much discourse about hijab, and like دي ما لما محجبة ودي ما لما عمل كده ودي ما like. But I feel like I would rather be someone who prays their five prayers on time, وملتزمة في صلاتي وفي صيامي وبحسن للناس يعني بتبرع المهم like, you know, like I'm covering all those bases and not wearing a hijab, then wear a hijab and just not pray like at all. You know? Like so there's definitely like certain things that are like people definitely like to make it a controversy or like commentate on it. But honestly, like it's really not your place. Like, okay, nasiha is one thing, but the way certain people advise you to wear the hijab is crazy. Like, listen, I'm a Muslim. I grew up my whole life in a Muslim country. I know I'm supposed to wear the hijab, and inshallah one day I will, okay? بقناعة وحكون like يعني sure of it and like, you know, confident and comfortable in it, right? Like if it's my choice, then أنا حلتزم. لكن if it's forced on me and people just like being completely disrespectful and it's just screaming at you because you're not wearing a hijab, like فاهمين, like again it's again the stereotype thing of like, oh هي ما محجبة معناتها قلة الأدب. Like hello, like sorry, what? Like that's crazy, you know? And like some people, they wear the hijab and they wear the most like revealing clothes, and some people don't wear the hijab and wear modest clothes. Like there's different variations and it's all fine. Everyone is in a journey. So just because you got there before me doesn't mean you get to judge me. Or like just because Anna I'm wearing modest clothes, someone else is not, does not mean I get to judge them. Does that make sense? Like everyone is on their own paths and you need to take a chill pill and back off, okay? And you know what? It's always the most like, let's just say, um I don't want to curse, but dunya Ramadan. لكن the most like let's just say non-religious men, okay, specifically men that love to comment on women's religiousness. Like sir. And then no, ما بس non-religious men, okay, they're not like Islam ده بس عندهم like it's just a title. And قدام الناس أنا المدين وأنا الأنصار سنة وأنا هنا. And then behind behind closed doors they be doing crazy stuff. Those are the ones who love to judge. They're like علامة محجب علاق I'm like, hello. The hypocrisy, honestly, the hypocrisy is insane. Okay. um and I really believe that honestly one of the biggest downfalls of the Muslim community is the haram police. Like, because okay, again, there's a difference between nasiha and hate. Okay, there's a difference between nasiha and hate, and you need to distinguish between the two, and it's not that difficult. Okay, a lot of people in the haram police, right? Again, if you don't know what the haram police are, those are people who, if they see anything slightly haram or like anything that's just not, the perfect example of a Muslim person, they start hating. And again, ما بينصحوك. No, they start hating. They're like, inti, 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 and they start cursing at you and like very, very aggressive, And honestly, it is the downfall of our Muslim community because like, and they don't know how to insahu at all. Like, and whenever I see those comments, I'm like, whoa, if you're just like, and again, also, even the nasiha, I think I'm willing to hear nasiha from a friend or someone that I know, or so, like, because again, like, I've grew up my whole life in a Muslim country. I know أنا مفترض ألبس الحجاب. It's not news. So a stranger coming up to me and insulting me and being like, oh انت ما لابسة الحجاب, oh my god, مخي حيتغير فجأة. Oh my god, أقنعتني. It never works. It never works. بيحصل اشتباك والموضوع بينتهي. And I'm gonna give you guys an example. And this was one of the craziest experiences of my life. Okay. So كنا ماشيين في جامعة الخرطوم من السنتر لسكول. ماشيين نلعب كشتينا. But that's not the point. So ماشيين من السنتر لسكول. وفي قاطعين الشارع، ما أعرف اسمه شارع الجامعة I think. المهم قاطعين الشارع وجات مرة وأنا my friends like نصنا كده محجبين ونصنا ما محجبين. and so قاطعين الشارع وجاتنا كده فجأة وقالت لنا أنتوا مسلمين. and I was like yeah. قالت لي شنو؟ قالت لي طيب مالك ما لابسة طرحة. I was like والله يعني ما في سبب، لكن إن شاء الله يعني هلبسها يوم ما ويعني ربنا يهديني وكده. المهم يعني قلت لها يعني I was just like okay and she was like هاي ليه ما تلبسي طرحة وانتوا مضيعين لين. and she started just attacking us. انتوا مضيعين لين البلد وانتوا وشنو you're a bad influence لبناتنا الصغار. like علاقتي أنا شنو ببنتك بعرفها من like she just started screaming at us في نص الشارع. الناس فجأة بقت في شنو الناس بدأت تركز معانا and she's like screaming at us. okay. بعدين عينت لصحباتي I'm like يا اخوانا نوع الناس الزي ديل ما تتفاهموا معاهم. like my friends were like عيني انت طيب لو عايز تنصحي انصحي بطريقة كويسة، يعني انصحي بطريقة مؤدبة، لكن اسلوبك ده يعني نام انه فايد. وصاحبتي كان اخلاقها طويلة الصراحة وبقيت تحاول تقنعني انه لا اسلوبك ده كعب، وانا like عليك الله خلينا نمشي لانه it's not worth it. like المرة دي ما حتفهم، هي جاية تشتبك، يعني هي ما جاية بنية نصيحة. وواضح الزول نيته نصيحة. لو نيتك نصيحة تقول لها انت مسلمة اي ربنا يهديك تلبس الحجاب ودي حاجة كويسة وهنا خلصت جملتها تواصل. لا، لكن قعدت هي وماسكة بين الزمن وانتوا قلت لها عيني خلاص كويس تمام، نحنا ما مربين ونحنا قليل الأدب طيب ونحنا سبب دمار المجتمع تمام خلاص ممكن نمشي. صاحبتي لا والأسلوب والنصيحة يا إخواننا والشمس في نص النهار. غايته كان موقف سيء. I remember to this day she said this one sentence. She was like she said something along the lines of يعني basically non-hijabi women or girls are the reason why there's pedophilia in Sudan. And I was like, whoa, whoa, the jump is crazy. Like from being non-hijabi, okay, inshallah one day like wearing the hijab or like whatever, not wearing the hijab, right? Not covering your hair, to you're the reason there's pedophilia in the society in Sudan. And I'm like, it was at that point that I was like, there's no saving it. I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I was like, okay, تمام. صاحبتي ذات لما سمعت الجملة دي she was like, "طب." We just left. ف I just want to say, لو عايزين تنصحوا please please قولوا جملة واحدة. طيب ما حنك انصحوا، قولوا جملة واحدة بس وجو بطريقة محترمة. لكن النبذ والإساءة، ليه؟ Why? Like all what are you doing? All what you're doing is just making me hate the thing more. And alhamdulillah Anna, we're mature enough to like be like, oh, she's just like dumb and she doesn't know what she's talking about. But someone else who's impressionable, who's young, and you scream at them like that and you degrade them like that, and now they hate hijab. You know, now they hate it. And I'm like, what did you gain? You know? So all I'm trying to say, spread love, not hate, and be respectful of everyone's journeys, whether it's hijab, whether it's praying, whether whatever it is, right? Just be gentle with people. And this is one thing I think I saw a TikTok about, or like a YouTube video, I can't remember. Which was talking about how like most of Islam is about manners and how you should live your life than it is about haram halal. So like I can't remember what it was. It was like, again, don't quote me on this, but like 70% of Islam is about how you should live your life and how you should be kind and how you should behave. It's about behavior and ways of living. 70% is about that, and then only 30% is about like haram halal. And the Muslim community focuses so much on what's haram and what's halal and what's makruh and what's like, and that's important as well, obviously. But we forget the fact that how you behave is one of the biggest factors that influence like مصيرك في الآخرة, you know? And like one of the things that Islam like repeats over and over and over again, be kind, be kind, be respectful, spread love. Like this is a like it's literally called Islam from a salam, right? Like peace, right? Be like, you know, so being hostile and aggressive and cursing people, and it's just the opposite of all of the things that Islam preaches. And so just like, please, everyone, just like calm down, take a chill pill, you know. um Obviously I know that if you're like a part of the haram police mob and you hear me saying all of this, you still won't change your mind, because you know most people who love arguing and have that kind of nature are not even open to a discourse, are not even open to like being told that they're wrong. So they probably won't listen. But anyone else who has just an ounce of like logic or just common sense, honestly, just be kind to people, be gentle. Focus this Ramadan, try to focus on your morals and values and you know, kindness and all of that, than trying to dictate how other people act and behave. And again, at the end of the day, ما بتتحاسب انت معاك الناس، تتحاسب انت براك. So try to focus on yourself inward. ولو قدرت تنصح انصح بطريقة محترمة. And that's that. Okay, so yeah. طيب, another challenge that I want to talk about growing up as a Muslim girl, woman, um um is the fact, oh, it's the merge between culture and religion, because it's a fine line, right? Because you know, again, Islam is deeply rooted in the state, in the country, and in the government, and so, and in the culture as well. So it's part of the culture. But there's always this fine line that keeps getting blurred between what is في عاداتنا تقاليدنا وشنو هو religion, you know? Like it's a very fine line, and a lot of things that happen, or like practices that are like part of the culture, that people claim that it's religion when it's not. Okay. A good example of this is like, what is a good example of this? Honestly, I can't think of any examples, but you guys can probably like think of a couple examples of certain things that are like, they're like, oh, the deen naked, but bro, it's misogyny is a big one. Okay, I just remembered, misogyny and sexism is a big one, right? something I learned um throughout my life and life experiences, says me, 20-year-old. Um throughout my life experiences, one thing I learned is that a lot of the things in the deen, that like foreigners or like people who are not Muslim would look at it and be like, oh, your religion, it limits you, it chains you, it controls you. um which, I mean, I think the controlling and the misogyny and the sexism comes from the culture. It's not from the religion. But because the religion and the culture merge, people just assume certain things are religion, right? And throughout my years, again, as I was saying, I learned that a lot of things that are put in Islam of hijab, or like modesty, or like things that, I think a lot of it protect us from the world. And when I say protect us, I know this word can have multiple meanings, and let me clarify here. When I say protect us, I mean like, because we live in a society. Again, we're back to, I think I said this every single episode, because we live in a society, but it's true. We live in a society that's misogynistic, okay? Sudan is misogynistic. A lot of Middle Eastern countries are heavily misogynistic and sexist. And so, in a lot of disputes or situations, the country, the government, the society will take the side of the man, and the woman ends up paying the price, right? And so, um, Islam sets certain restrictions on behaviors. And by the way, a lot of things are like for both men and women. Only specific things are like, oh, these rules, or like these things are haram only for women, these things are haram only for men. um but those specific things, genuinely, it is to protect us from the society, not necessarily like to limit us. Does that make sense? Because, okay, let me give an example, right? um for example, the thing in, no, it's haram to like be alone with a man, right? Like only the two of you, without like a third party present or something like that. That it makes so much sense, right? Because if it's only a man and woman there, and something happens, something goes wrong, there's a dispute, people are usually gonna blame the woman. Oh, you're a peep, you are a peep, I'm censoring here, but they name call the woman, they slut shame the woman, they blah 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 the woman, right? But the man, he's cool, he's fine, he's a man, and so a lot of these things, right? Because we live in a society, the women end up getting the short end of the stick. And so when Islam is like, only talk to men when it's like with a purpose, or like limit your interactions unless you want to take the halal route of like getting married and all of that, um you know it makes sense, because at the end of the day, when we're talking about interactions between men and women, society will usually take the man's side, and the woman is just name called and all of that. And so, after growing up, and like when I was younger, obviously I didn't get it. I was like, why do I have to do this and not the men? Why do I have to, I was angry, not gonna lie. For a while, I was like, this is unfair. Like, I was like, oh, Islam controls us, Islam limits us. But then I really thought about it, and a lot of the things make sense, like, they're sad truths, they're ugly truths. We don't live in a, listen, if a society was like equal and balanced, and there wasn't misogyny and sexism, then I would be like, okay, yeah, it's controlling us. But society is not balanced, men are privileged, they will always be privileged. And so Islam kind of tries to like balance that a little bit, just basically, it helps us be more careful when existing in this society. But I don't know if all what I said made any sense. But like, I'm cooking here, okay? Like, I'm trying to explain. I don't know. Did that make sense? I feel like that made sense. So, so yeah, all I'm trying to say is that growing up, I finally learned that a lot of restrictions, controlling, things in Islam. I'm quoting again. I'm drawing quotation marks right now. If you can't see the video version, Um, so yeah, like, but it really is for us. It's not against us. So a lot of things started to make sense, and now that a lot of things make sense, I have more like, I feel like my faith grew up, because I'm just like, now, because these things make sense, probably a lot of other things make a lot of sense. I just don't get it yet. And so, and that's why it's called faith. Like, you choose to believe. It's not that we're brainwashed, Muslims aren't brainwashed. Like, women aren't brainwashed into wearing the hijab. They choose to wear it. They choose to believe it. People are like, "Oh, you just blindly believe any rule or that's written in the Quran." I choose to believe those things. It's not that I'm brainwashed to believe them, but I choose to believe them because I have seen how a lot of them can be beneficial for me and can help me live a peaceful and fulfilling life. And so I choose to believe the rules and kind of guidance or like things that don't make sense to me. I choose to believe those because they probably have a purpose too, and they probably benefit me too. I just don't get it yet. Does that make sense? And so we believe the things we do that make sense to us, but we also choose to believe the things that don't make sense to us. But we're like, does am I feel like I'm making a point here. Hopefully you guys understood. Hopefully you guys understood what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so that's one of the benefits. Again, wait, was I talking about benefits or challenges? Honestly, it's all merging. It's all merging. I don't know what this segment is called, but we'll move on. Okay, benefits. Another thing that I love about Islam, honestly, is it's just like, I don't know, it's just wholesome. Like, genuinely, like, I feel like Islam is such like a wholesome religion. If you grow up loving it. Like, I don't think I grew up loving Islam, but I grew up to love it, if that makes sense. Like, I think also another thing that made me like start like learning and reading more about Islam and trying to be a better Muslim, is a lot of content that I watched online. So one of the podcasts that I really listen to, and you guys can listen to as well. I know there's only 7 days left in Ramadan, but you can still continue, being immersed in Islam even after Ramadan. Like, it's not just the Ramadan thing. But you should listen to the podcast called the Arab Hippie Podcast. I think if I find a picture, I'll add it here. The Arab Hippie Podcast. Her name is Farah, and she has an amazing podcast. Like, all of the episodes, I'm just like, real. A lot of things she said, I'm like, that makes sense. Some things I disagree with 100%. You can still disagree with people. But a lot of things she says, I'm like, preach. Another, like, what's her name? Not her name, his name, Umar Suleiman. He has a lot of videos on YouTube that I really enjoy. And I remember, oh my God, you know, something that's like a lot of people in the Muslim community are like going crazy over when he said, I think it's Umar Sulaiman, correct me if I'm wrong, but he said, romance is rizq, and not everyone in this dunya will find romance and love and all of that. And everyone was like, oh my God, what? That's crazy. And honestly, I never really, I never really thought about it because I already didn't think I'm ever gonna get married. And it's okay. Oh my God, this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. Oh my God, there's so many things to talk about when it comes to like religion and Islam and Ramadan. Like, okay, again, this episode I think it's gonna be an hour because it's a special episode, and so I doubled the time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Um, the episode didn't end. We still have like 9 minutes. But anyways, okay, so the Umar Suleiman thing, everyone's like, oh my God, romance is risk. Like, not everyone's gonna get married. I'm like, yeah. Like, but it's like, I think it's sadder if you want to get married and then you realize, like, oh, يمكن يكون ما من نصيبي, or like يمكن يكون ما مكتوب لي إني أتزوج. I understand the disappointment in that and like being like, nah. But I had never really thought I'm gonna get married because it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm gonna make a whole episode about like marriage and love and like all these things. I'm gonna put them into one episode. But I never thought I'm gonna get married. It's not because I'm unlovable or like I'm kind of cool. I guess. I'm I'm kind of funny. I'm kind of like tolerable, I guess. Lovable, I guess. I'm sorry. But but anyways, it's not that because I'm unlovable or like, no one would ever want to marry me. It's just because it doesn't make sense to me wanting to get married. First of all, spending the rest of my life with a man, like, ew. First of all, that's just the first point. Like, what do you mean? And then also, second of all, like, I think I'd be miserable. Like, if you guys have ever watched Little Women, you know how the Joe monologue with what was his name? Laurie, I think. And he was like, "Oh, Joe, like let's finally get married and be together." And she's like, "You would hate me." And like it's not okay. I didn't relate to the "you would hate me" part, but she said that she would be miserable in a marriage, and I feel like I would. And it's like unless like I marry a best friend, but again also I don't want to ruin friendships like with marriage. Okay, I know that marriage doesn't ruin friendships, but it kind of does. But like I just don't get it, you know? It's like I don't get marriage. I also don't get dating. Like dating doesn't make any sense to me. Like at all. You know? Other than it doesn't make sense to me, it's also haram. So I'm just like there's just so many layers to why I don't think I'll ever get married. Also, I do not want to have kids ever in my life because it sounds painful and I feel like having kids is like creating a problem and trying to solve it. And I'm not saying that kids are a problem. Well, they kind of are, but like it's like creating a thing that's needy and like needs a lot of sacrifice and like so you have to like sacrifice a lot to raise a kid, a lot of your mental, financial well-being and like all of that stuff. And like so you create something to fix it. Like you create something to dedicate your life to. And it's just I don't get it. Like why create a problem to solve it? I don't know. Am I making any sense? And okay, if you want to get married and have kids, that's amazing. That's great. But I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I remember, speaking of Islam and oh my God, we have to talk about Islamiyat teachers. Like, يا إخوانا, أساتذة الإسلاميات are the most خارجية, the most in I don't know, maybe that's just my experience, but they say the craziest things. Some of these things are not regulated, the hiring of Islamiyat teachers, because especially Islamiyat, because it's something that sticks with you the rest of your life. And sometimes they say certain things that stick with you for the rest of your life, and you're like, whoa, you grow up and you're like, wait, my Islamiyat teacher lied to me? Or like maybe they just didn't know, or like they're just I mean, I just feel like the hiring of Islamiyat teachers needs to be regulated more because I remember by the way, this is in high school, okay? We weren't kids at that point, but this was in high school. And I remember that the topic of like marriage, right? And they were saying, الزواج بيكمل لك دينك and all of that. And I'm like, great, but I don't want to get married. So does that mean like ديني ما حيكتمل? And I'm like, there's, like not conundrum. There's like, it contradicts, right? Like, cause I'm like, but I don't want to get married, but like I had to كمل ديني, but like so it doesn't make sense. But I don't want to get married because it's ew in my head. I don't know, marriage is so repulsive to me. Like I don't think that's normal, but it's okay, like it's fine. But it's just like the idea of it, I'm just like, maybe I'll change my mind again. This is 20-year-old me. This is 20-year-old me. We'll see how I feel in a few years, but for now I'm just like, ew. It's even the idea of it is repulsive, not even the reality. It's anyway, sorry. From So the story is, right, my Islamia teacher, we were talking about Islam, sorry, we are talking about marriage, and he was talking about, oh, Islam بيكمل dinik and all of that. And so I raised my hand and I'm like, what if I don't want to get married? Um, like, is that an option? Like, is that haram? Like, I lay like dead ass, and he was like, yeah, you can't choose to not get married. It's haram. You'll go to hell if you choose not to get married. And I'm like, whoa, again, crazy jump, like from not wanting to get married to burning for eternity. And I'm like, what do you mean I'll go to hell if I don't get married? He's like, well, unless like, oh, ما كان نصيب, or like ما مكتوب لك انك تتزوجي, or like, if it's something outside of your control, No, was it marriage or was it having kids? I don't remember. It was one of the two. I was like, I don't want to have kids, or like something like I don't want to get married. I think it was marriage. But he was like, oh, if you don't get married, if you choose to not get married, if it was like an active choice, like you had the option and you were like, no, because you don't want to get married. Not no because I don't like this person, but no because I don't want to get married ever. Like, like saying no to the idea of marriage is haram. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That does not make any sense to me. Like, what do you mean? But he was like, yeah, yeah, if you choose not to get married. And I feel like there should be some kind of regulation on that. Because again, I didn't believe him because I was like, that's insane. Like, that's crazy. Um, but like I feel like that should be right. Like, Islamiyat teachers should not be allowed to say some things, because I'm like, what if I believed him? What if I believed him and then somewhere down the line, I believed him until in my mid 20s, late 20s, 30s, whatever, and then I got married just because I was too scared of going to hell and like thinking that it was haram and like, you know, I still don't know to this day if choosing not to get married is haram or not and choosing not to have kids is haram or not. It's probably not because that's crazy. I feel like that's insane. But anyways, yeah. So again, I'm pretty sure also the amount of stories I heard from my friends and their Islamia teachers saying the craziest this is haram, this is halal, like, insane. So again, that I feel like that should be regulated. ما مفروض يخلوهم كده يقولوا دايرين انه like to spread misinformation like that. Just the thought. Just the thought. What else? Mm, I think that's all. I think دي كل حاجة كنت دايرة أتكلم عنها. I talked about Ramadan vibes. I talked about growing up Muslim. Again, the topic بتاع growing up Muslim, there's so many things that you can talk about. Like, so many topics to touch on. I probably will have a part two sometime next year or something, but I think that's all for this episode. I talked a lot. It's almost an hour. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I gave you 30 extra minutes. So, you know, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Again, رايكم شنو في زينة رمضان and the effort I put in. علقت فوانيس فوق هناك وجبت الفانوس ده. Wait, sorry. جبت الفانوس ده خديته هنا فوق كتب عشان أعمل لكم رمضان vibes so yeah, tell me what you guys thought of today's episode. I really enjoyed recording it, honestly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So on the 15th is when I should probably post the next episode. It's gonna be a Eid edition, so also probably an hour long. Oh my god, amazing news. Next episode I'm gonna have a new mic, so hopefully the audio is gonna get better. I know this episode the production quality has went down. I'm still with the scuffed mic. I'm not wearing a Ramadan jalabi even though it's the Ramadan special. Like, I know the production quality is going downhill. Like, I love how the first episode, like قشرتها, my hair was straightened, والoutfit والmakeup and then next second episode I was like لبست hoodie ولا was it like a black shirt, and this episode جيتكم بالجلابية. like a cow print of all things. It's cute though, it's like adorable. But then next episode ما عارفة حجيكم بشنو إن شاء الله. ما أجيكم ب like just a scuffed pajama. Oh, next episode is Eid. Hopefully حكون لابسة جلابية عيد إن شاء الله إن شاء الله. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Please, again, everything that I said is personal opinions, personal experience. Haram, please do not come for me. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I don't know what I'm talking about. Actually, I do know what I'm talking about. And I said what I said and not to say it again. Sorry, that was whoa, my two personalities shifting there. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you again in the Eid special in 2 weeks. And yeah, bye bye.